So on November the 28th, 1941, the Grand Mufti was ushered into a private room in Hitler's chancellery. Surrounded by Nazi dignitaries, he finally met the Führer. It wasn't a long meeting, but al-Husseini appeared to get what he so desperately wanted.
Hitler was saying, give me some time, let us develop our military strategy, and when we'll be in the military position of dominating this part of the world, we will fulfill your desires of independence. But until then, I have political considerations, so you have to, accept my pledge, and that's it. And this was the only meeting Hitler ever gave the Mufti.
The deal was pretty clear. While the Nazis stopped short of actually recognizing an independent Palestine, Hitler was planning to deal with the Jews who'd settled in the country. And so began the Mufti's 4-year-long relationship with the Nazis. Throughout his time in Germany during the Second World War, al-Husseini appeared to enjoy a close working relationship with some of the highest-ranking Nazis. In the Grand Mufti's memoirs, published in 1999, he freely discusses his close relationship with SS Chief Heinrich Himmler, the man who was the architect of the extermination of the Jews. According to his own account, he often met Himmler for tea. On one such occasion, the Grand Mufti had his photograph taken with him. It contains a signed dedication from Himmler to His Eminence the Grand Mufti, a memento. This wasn't the only exchange of gifts between Mohammed al-Husseini and the Nazi leaders. The Grand Mufti even went to such lengths as having a Persian rug specially made for the Führer himself. From his bureau in Berlin, he also planned a series of radio broadcasts to the Middle East. His first came in December 1941, and he continued to broadcast throughout the entire war. But then his involvement with the Nazis became deeper and darker. In 1942, Himmler's deputy, Reinhard Heydrich, convened a meeting of Nazi officials who met here at Wannsee, near Berlin. At the meeting, the Nazi hierarchy launched their project to deal with the millions of Jews in Europe. They rubber-stamped the plan which became known as the final solution to the Jewish problem. It meant the systematic rounding up of Jews and their extermination in death camps all over Europe. So what did the Grand Mufti really know of the Nazis' plans?
The Mufti, as he himself acknowledged very clearly in his memoirs, was perfectly aware of the genocide. He was perfectly aware of the fact that the Nazis were perpetrating a genocide of European Jews. He tells himself in his memoir the story of his encounter in July 1943 with Himmler, during which Himmler told him that Germany was in the process of exterminating the Jews and had already killed 3 million of them. He himself recognizes that he knew. He was informed about that, at least in July 1943.
Whilst there is no evidence of the Grand Mufti actively assisting Hitler's plans, he certainly did help the Nazi war effort.
Über den Bergen von Bosnien. Deutsche Kampfflugzeuge zerstören die Schlupfwinkel kommunistischer Banditen.
As the Second World War progressed and Germany began to suffer defeats, their troops became more and more stretched. One area of conflict where there was a desperate need for military support was the Balkans. There, the communist partisans were growing in strength. The Germans needed more resources urgently, especially soldiers. One possible solution was the drafting of Bosnian Muslims. But they had been strictly forbidden by Muslim leaders from collaborating with the Nazis. So the German authorities turned to their trusted Muslim voice, the Grand Mufti, to exert pressure on the power brokers in the region. In the spring of 1943, the Mufti successfully convinced Bosnian Muslims to ignore the clerics. By doing so, he played a major role in establishing a new unit of the SS, the most feared and fanatical part of the German armed forces. It was the SS that was responsible for some of the most brutal and horrendous crimes perpetrated in the whole of the war. The unit that the Grand Mufti helped set up became known as the 13th Waffen-SS Mountain Division and consisted almost entirely of Muslims. However, again, there is no evidence that this unit was actively involved in any anti-Jewish atrocities. But the Grand Mufti went further. He wrote letters to European leaders urging them not only to stop sending their Jewish citizens to Palestine, but to actively redirect them to Poland.
He knew that there were concentration camps. That was publicly known. And therefore, he was advocating that the Jews be sent to concentration camps instead of being sent to Palestine. So we can see here the qualitative difference between a Palestinian national leader who would say to any governments, don't send your Jews to Palestine. That's one thing. And a Palestinian leader would say, don't send your Jews to Palestine, but send them to Poland in concentration camps. Here you move from what could be seen as a legitimate national position or nationalist position into a criminal statement. And indeed, the Mufti had a very abject role during those years. There's no way, therefore, one can excuse him for that or find any justification.
The Mufti's justification was probably to get help in his efforts to attack the British in his homeland. He asked the Nazi hierarchy to organize sabotage missions against the Allies in the Middle East. His requests met with some success. Teams of saboteurs were parachuted into Iraq, Jordan, and Palestine, where they targeted Allied facilities such as telephone lines, pipelines, bridges, and railways. But when he asked the German Air Command to carry out bigger raids along the Palestine coast and on Tel Aviv, he was less successful. Hermann Göring, the head of the Luftwaffe, rejected the plan, saying he simply didn't have enough men and machines to divert from Europe. But despite being let down by the Nazi hierarchy that he had come to trust, he continued to throw his support behind them. On March 1st, 1944, during one of his many broadcasts, he said, "Arabs, rise as one man and fight for your sacred rights. Kill the Jews wherever you find them. This pleases God, history, and religion. This saves your honor. God is with you."